First Contact Protocol. Commander Maya Chen had seen strange things during her 12 years with the United Earth Space Force, but nothing like the object that now filled her view screen. The vessel, if that's what it was, resembled an elongated teardrop made of something that seemed both solid and liquid simultaneously, its surface rippling with colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. "Status report," she ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Lieutenant Patel's fingers danced across his console. No response to standard hails. No recognizable propulsion emissions. "It's just sitting there, Commander." Maya nodded. What had begun as a routine patrol near Jupiter's orbit had suddenly become humanity's first confirmed alien encounter. Years of training kicked in as she activated the First Contact Protocol, a sequence developed despite many believing it would never be needed. "Broadcast peaceful intentions on all frequencies and prepare the translation matrix," she commanded. "And someone get me a direct line to Earth Command. They're going to want to." The alien vessel pulsed once, and Maya's ship went dark. Emergency lights flickered on as systems rebooted one by one. "Status," Maya barked. "All systems coming back online," Paddle reported. "It appears to have been some kind of scan, not an attack." Before Maya could respond, every screen on the bridge displayed the same message in perfect English. "Stand by for communication." A figure materialized on the bridge, not physically present but projected somehow. It stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like polished obsidian. Its face featured 3 vertical slits where a human would have eyes, and a small circular opening that moved when it spoke. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Galactic Assembly," the being said, its voice resonating with harmonic undertones. "Your species has reached the threshold of notice. The observation period is concluded." Maya stepped forward, back straight, chin raised. "I am Commander Maya Chen of the United Earth Space Force. What observation period are you referring to?" The projection's head tilted slightly. "Your planet has been monitored since your species first used tools. The Assembly observes all developing worlds. Earth has now advanced sufficiently to warrant official contact." For 3 days, Maya's ship remained alongside the alien vessel as information was exchanged. Earth governments scrambled to respond, united for perhaps the first time by the realization that humanity was not alone, and apparently had never been. Ambassador Krell explained that the Galactic Assembly consisted of over 300 spacefaring species who jointly governed this section of the galaxy. Earth was being invited to undergo evaluation for potential membership. "Evaluation?" asked Maya during one of their meetings. "What does that entail?" "Your species must demonstrate compatibility with Assembly values and protocols," Krell replied. "Representatives will be selected to visit the Assembly core station. And if we decline this invitation," Krell's skin rippled with dark patterns, "that would be unwise. The Assembly does not permit unaffiliated technological species to develop unchecked. It creates instability." The implied threat wasn't lost on Maya or Earth's leadership. After intense global debate, they agreed to send representatives, not out of enthusiasm but necessity. Maya was selected alongside Dr. Elijah Wright, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist and linguistics expert. On their final day on Earth, Maya stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, watching her home planet spin below. Elijah joined her, his weathered face betraying the same mix of wonder and apprehension she felt. "Do you think they're telling us everything?" she asked. Elijah shook his head, his gray-streaked beard catching the light. "Not even close. The linguistic patterns in Krell's communication suggest careful omission. There's something they're not saying about this evaluation." "Well, we're about to find out," Maya said as the docking alert sounded. "Ambassador Krell's transport has arrived." The journey to the Assembly core station took 3 weeks in Earth time. Their quarters aboard Krell's ship were comfortable if alien. The gravity slightly too heavy, the lighting too blue, and everything designed for beings with different proportions. But it was the information they received during transit that truly unnerved them. The assembly has existed for over 40,000 of your years, Krell explained as they reviewed the historical data provided. It maintains galactic stability through carefully managed species integration. Managed how? Elijah asked, his analytical mind immediately seizing on the term. Species development follows predictable patterns, Krell responded. Deviations are corrected to ensure harmonious advancement. Maya caught Elijah's glance. There it was again, language that concealed as much as it revealed. And where does humanity fit into these patterns? Maya pressed. For the first time, Krell seemed hesitant. That remains to be determined. Your species has shown unusual development trajectories. As they approached the core station, Maya stood at the viewing port, struck speechless by what she saw. The station wasn't merely a structure. It was a megastructure that encircled an entire star, harvesting its energy directly. The assembly has existed longer than human civilization, Elijah whispered beside her. And they've been watching us all along. Maya nodded, a chill running down her spine despite herself. And now they're going to judge whether we're worthy of joining them, or something else. Welcome, Krell announced behind them, to the heart of galactic civilization. The Assembly's judgment. The Assembly core station defied Earth architectural concepts. Corridors curved in non-Euclidean geometries, chambers expanded beyond what their external dimensions should allow, and gravity shifted subtly as they moved through different sectors. Maya maintained her military bearing despite the disorientation, while Elijah recorded everything with barely contained scientific excitement. The Assembly Grand Chamber ahead houses representatives from all member species, Krell explained as they approached massive doors that seemed to be made of living crystal. Your evaluation begins with formal introduction. The doors parted to reveal a vast amphitheater filled with thousands of alien beings. Some resembled Krell with obsidian skin, others appeared almost gaseous, while still others were encased in mechanical shells or suspended in liquid environments. All eyes, or sensory organs, turned to Maya and Elijah as they entered. A member of a species resembling a mantis stepped forward. I am Counselor Vex, current Speaker of the Assembly. Earth representatives, you stand before us to begin your species evaluation. Do you understand the significance of this process? Maya stepped forward. We understand this is important, Counselor, but perhaps not the full significance. Earth was unaware of the Assembly's existence until recently. A murmur ran through the chamber. Disapproval, Maya suspected. Ignorance does not alter protocol, Vex replied coldly. The first phase of evaluation is information exchange. Your species' history, technological development, and social structures will be reviewed. You may observe Assembly operations during this phase. And so began 2 weeks of intensive data sharing. Earth's history was laid bare before the Assembly's evaluation committees. Every war, every technological breakthrough, every cultural shift scrutinized. In return, Maya and Elijah received carefully curated information about Assembly governance and member species. But it was what they observed outside official channels that troubled them. Did you notice how the Thraxian delegation was treated? Elijah whispered as they returned to their quarters after one session. They weren't even allowed to speak during the trade dispute. Maya nodded. And the Moravian representative was cut off when questioning resource allocation. Something's not right here. Their suspicions grew when they met Thorn, a maintenance worker whose species, the Kythera, resembled upright felines with intricate scale patterns where fur should be. They encountered him repairing systems near their quarters, and unlike most station residents, he seemed willing to speak candidly. Your species is under developmental review, Thorn explained during their third clandestine meeting, his voice low. It's not about membership, it's about classification. Classification, Maya pressed. Thorn's tail flicked nervously. The Assembly categorizes species by development patterns. Most follow predictable trajectories, technological advancement at established rates, social evolution along known lines. But some, he looked at them meaningfully, some are different. Like humans, Elijah guessed. And Kythera, Thorne confirmed. My people were classified as a divergent species 3 centuries ago. We're restricted from certain technologies, limited in expansion rights, and kept under constant supervision. Maya felt cold anger building. On what grounds? They called us unpredictably innovative, Thorne said with bitter pride. Our neural architecture allows for creative leaps that the assembly finds destabilizing. The pieces began falling into place. Maya recalled Krell's comments about unusual development trajectories and corrected deviations. They're afraid of us, she realized aloud. Not because we're dangerous, but because we're unpredictable. Thorne nodded. The assembly has maintained power for millennia by controlling development. Species that follow predetermined paths are granted membership. Those that don't are contained. How many others are there? Elijah asked. Species like yours, and potentially ours. More than the assembly admits, Thorne replied. We've formed networks, hidden communications. Many serve on the station as workers, deemed non-threatening in our restricted roles. As they parted, Thorne slipped Elijah a small device. This will connect you to others. If your evaluation goes as I expect, you'll need allies. Their suspicions were confirmed the next day when they were summoned to witness an assembly vote regarding another species, the Volari, whose evaluation had concluded. The Volari show concerning development in quantum manipulation technologies, Counselor Vex announced. The evaluation committee recommends Class 3 oversight, restricted development with mandatory assembly guidance for the next 200 cycles. Maya watched the Volari representatives, beings of crystalline structure that chimed melodically when they moved, as their future was decided without their input. The vote passed almost unanimously. That evening, Maya and Elijah activated Thorne's device. A holographic display showed dozens of different species connected through a hidden communication network, all classified as divergent, all subject to assembly restrictions. We need to warn Earth, Maya said grimly. This isn't an invitation to join galactic society. It's a judgment that could limit humanity's future for centuries. Elijah studied the device. This network, it's extensive, not just restricted species, but dissidents from member worlds too. A resistance, Maya murmured, against the assembly's control. Their own evaluation results came 3 days later. Maya and Elijah stood before the full assembly as Counselor Vex delivered the verdict. Human neural architecture shows alarming creativity potential, Vex announced. Your technological advancement rate exceeds safe parameters by 23%. Your social adaptability indexes are unprecedented. The evaluation committee recommends Class 2 oversight with technology development restrictions and limited expansion rights. Maya stepped forward without being recognized. Humanity rejects this classification. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. Species didn't reject assembly rulings. It simply wasn't done. Your acceptance is not required, Vex stated coldly. The decision is made. Implementation begins immediately. No, Maya replied firmly. It doesn't. Humanity will determine its own path forward. As guards moved toward them, Maya exchanged a glance with Elijah. They had already activated Thorne's device, broadcasting the proceedings to the hidden network. The rebellion they'd discussed with their new allies was about to begin, ahead of schedule. You have no choice, Vex insisted. Assembly decisions are binding. That, Maya responded, is where you're wrong. Rebellion ignites. Chaos erupted in the assembly chamber as security forces, insectoid beings in mechanized armor, surrounded Maya and Elijah. But before they could be detained, the chamber lights flickered and alarms blared throughout the station. What's happening? Demanded Counselor Vex. A Thraxian technician rushed to his side. Multiple system failures across the station. Communications, security protocols, environmental controls, all compromised. Maya smiled grimly. This was Thorne and his allies, executing the plan they'd developed over late-night strategy sessions. The divergent species were using their creativity, the very quality the assembly feared, to throw the station into confusion. Commander Chen, Vex turned to Maya, mandibles clicking in agitation. Your species is responsible for this disruption. Actually, Maya replied, we're just the catalyst. What you're witnessing is the response of every species you've classified, restricted, and oppressed. They'd been waiting for an opportunity. Across the station, restricted species were rising up, not with violence, but with carefully coordinated disruption. Security systems malfunctioned, allowing restricted areas to be accessed. Information barriers fell, revealing centuries of assembly manipulation to the general population. Meanwhile, back on Earth, preparations were underway. Using specially designed quantum entanglement communicators that Maya and Elijah had smuggled to the station, they had been sending detailed information about assembly technology and defenses. Earth's best scientists worked around the clock to develop countermeasures against potential assembly enforcement. In the confusion, Thorne located Maya and Elijah, guiding them through maintenance corridors to a secure meeting area where representatives from 24 restricted species had gathered. The Assembly is mobilizing its enforcement fleet, announced a Volari representative, her crystalline form vibrating with urgency. They're preparing to implement restrictions on Earth directly. How long do we have? Maya asked. 3 Earth days at most, answered a gaseous being that communicated through color fluctuations translated by a device. Enough time to warn your planet, but not enough to evacuate your colony outposts. Elijah activated their quantum communicator. Earth needs to know they're coming. And we need to find a way off this station to join the defense. The coalition of restricted species had been planning this moment for decades. Transport vessels were hidden throughout the station's maintenance bays, prepared for a mass exodus when the opportunity arose. Now, with systems in disarray, they could finally escape. The Assembly never understood what they created by gathering us here, Thorne observed as they boarded a sleek vessel designed by Kitharan engineers. They collected the galaxy's most creative problem solvers, then gave us a common enemy, themselves. As their ship and dozens of others broke away from the station, pursuing assembly vessels found their navigation systems compromised by codes planted years earlier by Volari programmers working in the Assembly's own shipyards. Back in the chamber, Counselor Vex watched in mounting horror as reports flooded in. Not only had the Earth representatives escaped with restricted species, but member worlds were now demanding explanations for the classified information being leaked across the Galactic communication network. This is precisely why divergent species must be controlled, he sputtered to the remaining counselors. Their unpredictability threatens everything we've built. An elder counselor from one of the Assembly's founding species replied gravely, perhaps what we've built deserves to be threatened. As Maya's ship accelerated toward Earth, she received a transmission from Admiral Hassan, Earth's defense coordinator. Commander Chen, your intelligence has been invaluable, Hassan reported. We've adapted assembly technology based on your specifications and distributed defenses throughout the solar system. But honestly, we're outgunned if their full fleet arrives. Numbers aren't everything, Admiral, Maya responded. We have something they've never faced, an alliance of species they deemed too creative to exist freely. And we're bringing their technological secrets with us. On Earth, humanity had united in the face of the external threat. Nations pooled resources, corporations opened their research archives, and scientists collaborated across former boundaries. They had 3 days to prepare for an enforcement fleet that had subjugated dozens of worlds. But they had one critical advantage. The Assembly had never faced a coordinated resistance from multiple divergent species. They had always isolated and restricted each creative species individually, ensuring none could ally with others. Their greatest fear and greatest oversight was now becoming reality. Elijah spent the journey studying the combined knowledge of the coalition species, identifying technological synergies that none had discovered individually. The assembly's enforced specialization prevented cross-pollination of ideas, he explained to Maya. By keeping species separate, they prevented the exponential growth that comes from combining different approaches to the same problems. As they approached Earth's solar system, long-range sensors detected the assembly enforcement fleet already entering the outer reaches. 16 vessels, each larger than anything humanity had built, arranged in formation for maximum tactical advantage. Admiral Hassan's voice came through, tense but controlled. All defense platforms activated, colony outposts evacuated. Earth is as ready as we can make it in the time we had. Maya looked at the coalition representatives gathered on the bridge of their ship, beings from across the galaxy, all deemed too unpredictable by the assembly, all now fighting for the right to determine their own futures. "Let's show the assembly what happens when they try to contain the uncontainable," she said. Humanity's stand. The assembly enforcement fleet entered Earth's solar system with confidence born from millennia of successful operations. Their vessels, massive constructs of technologies beyond human understanding, moved in perfect formation, sensors scanning for defenses they anticipated would be primitive and easily overcome. They found nothing. "Counselor, we detect no defensive installations," reported the fleet commander to Vex, who observed from the assembly core station. "Earth appears undefended." Vex's mandibles clicked in suspicion. "Impossible. Proceed with caution. This matches no predicted response pattern." The fleet advanced cautiously toward Earth, passing the orbit of Neptune without incident. As they approached Uranus, tiny objects detached from the planet's rings, objects that had remained undetected among the natural debris. "Energy signatures detected," the fleet commander announced suddenly. Thousands of small devices activating throughout the ring system. Before the assembly vessels could react, the devices, no larger than satellites, activated in synchronized sequence. They didn't attack. Instead, they created a localized field that disrupted the quantum-based communications system the assembly fleet relied upon. Cut off from each other and the core station, the assembly vessels paused, a momentary hesitation that revealed how dependent they were on centralized command. From Earth, Admiral Hassan gave the order. "Execute Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, automated platforms that had been disguised as research stations activated. These weren't conventional weapons platforms. They were based on assembly technology, but modified using insights from the coalition of restricted species. Instead of attacking directly, they targeted the assembly vessel's propulsion systems with precisely calibrated gravitational pulses. 5 assembly ships found themselves immobilized, unable to maneuver as their exotic propulsion systems fought against the gravitational distortions. "Clever," Thorne observed as they monitored from Maya's approaching vessel. "Your people combined Kitharan gravitational manipulation with Volvari quantum entanglement disruption. The assembly would never anticipate such technological hybridization." On the assembly command ship, confusion reigned. Their tactical doctrines assumed technological superiority in all encounters. They had no protocols for facing opponents using their own technology in unexpected ways. "This confirms the danger of divergent species," Vex communicated when partial connections were restored. "Implement containment protocols immediately." The assembly ships that remained mobile deployed their primary weapons, reality warping fields that could neutralize technological civilizations by altering physical constants within a planetary radius. These weapons had ended resistance on dozens of worlds throughout assembly history. As the fields began to form, Elijah activated the countermeasure he and scientists from 3 coalition species had developed during their journey to Earth. Based on principles discovered independently by human quantum physicists, Kitharan gravitational theorists, and Volari energy specialists, it created a resonance that destabilized the assembly's reality warping fields. The fields collapsed, feedback surging through the assembly vessels and disabling their primary offensive capabilities. Admiral Hassan's voice came through clear and confident. "All Earth Defense Forces, execute Phase 3. From Earth's moon, Mars, and concealed stations throughout the asteroid belt, Humanity's ships emerge, not the primitive vessels the assembly expected, but craft incorporating elements of technology from each coalition species, assembled in ways that reflected humanity's unique approach to engineering. The assembly made a fundamental error. Maya transmitted to the enforcement fleet. They judged each divergent species in isolation, never understanding that our true strength emerges through collaboration. The Earth-led coalition fleet surrounded the disabled assembly vessels. Not a shot had been fired, yet the enforcement mission had failed completely. On the assembly core station, the revelation of centuries of manipulation and suppression sparked revolutions among member species. Many had accepted assembly authority, believing it preserved galactic peace, only to discover they had been supporting the systematic oppression of creative species. Council chambers that had stood unchanged for millennia became forums for passionate debate as power structures crumbled. The very unpredictability the assembly had feared became its undoing as member species broke from established patterns and demanded reform. 3 weeks after the failed enforcement action, representatives from across the galaxy, both former assembly members and restricted species, convened on Earth. The setting was symbolic. The first meeting of a new galactic community would take place on the world that had catalyzed change. Maya watched delegates arrive from her office overlooking the Geneva Convention Center. Elijah joined her, setting down a tablet containing the draft charter for the new galactic cooperative. The assembly feared creativity because they couldn't control it. Elijah observed, "They never understood it's not something to control, it's something to nurture." Maya nodded. They drew a line around what they thought civilization should be. Humanity didn't just cross that line. We erased it. Outside, ships from 100 worlds hung in Earth's sky, not as conquerors or enforcers, but as equals coming together to build something new. Human children pointed upward in wonder, their futures no longer constrained by distant powers that feared what they might become. The assembly had crossed a line by attempting to limit humanity's potential. In response, humanity had done what it did best, found an unexpected solution that transformed. The end,